If I can start off just with one thing. First, I'm honored to be the GM when we're going to retire Chris Neal's jersey. Chris, as a player, was a warrior. On and off the ice, he did everything to get the maximum out of himself. He's someone that we're so happy that is still part of the organization still. He's someone that I think our fans really identify with. I know if there was a war on, I'd want Chris Neal by my side. If I can tell one story about him, we don't beat the New York Rangers in the last time we made the playoffs if Chris Neal is not with us. He came in that series, changed the tone of the series. We beat the Rangers, and Chris had a lot to do with it.
You don't see guys like him on very often. And do you think you kind of have to live here to understand the impact he's made?
Yeah, I think obviously being from Ottawa, Ottawa Senators fan, know the importance that Chris Neal brought to the organization, to the team in that dressing room. But I think through the league, the respect that he had, I think says a lot about what Chris Neal stands for, what he is, what he was as a player, what he was as a competitor.
And never suspended once in his career?
No, that tells you that he never crossed the line. Came close, but never crossed it. Now let's get to the real stuff. Do you want me to talk about it? Or?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
So for us, obviously, our goal all year is to play meaningful games. I think we are there where we're playing meaningful games. Right now, probably everyone is wondering, are we a buyer or are we a seller? For us, let's see where these next 7 games take us. I think we have to pretty much decide. We have a plan in place if we're going to be a buyer, if we're going to be a seller. We might be just standing pat also. We made a lot of moves in the summer to prepare to play meaningful games. For us, what's important is we have to make a decision probably before the Ranger game, because we feel right now what's going on around the league is everyone's feeling each other out. You haven't seen many trades. You've seen maybe one, but you haven't seen many trades right now, and I think everyone's just trying to figure out where everyone is. And, we have plans in place for whatever situation we could do, but we could be a buyer at certain positions, a seller at certain positions. So right now there's a lot of balls in play, which as a GM, this is the most fun time of the year for a GM. There's no doubt about that.
Is it made more fun by the fact that you won 6 in your last 7?
Yeah.
Team's looking a little brighter.
No, going 6-1 over the last 7 games. The Edmonton game was a tough one to win. I think if you put the all-star teams of Russia 72 against the Edmonton, they probably would have lost if they wouldn't have played for 11 days. But other teams had to go through it. So the guys have played hard. Give credit to our 2 young goalies for what they've done the last 2 games. Like Mats and Kevin going in there and playing as well, earning the win, being important pieces in us, being an important piece in getting those 2 victories says a lot about them. You look at what Matt's gone through this year through some of the injuries and battling back to be 100%. And you look what Kevin's done. Kevin went down to the East Coast League this year and did everything we asked about him. Has matured a lot. When I mean a lot, I mean a lot. And what he was able to do the other night, kudos to them. Kudos to Justin Peters. Kudos to Zach Burke. Goaltending is always important, but it's great for organization that, players have come through like this. And how the players have played in front of them, they've played really hard in front of them. So.
And does that change what you might do with Cam Talbot?
No, I think Cam right now skated today. It went really well today. So he's going to practice. I think he's going to join practice either tomorrow or Saturday, and then we'll see what happens. But, when it comes to whatever position, it's always a thing in offer and demand. People don't realize sometimes that you don't get a call on certain players. People think that you're getting a million calls. I'm not talking about Cam specifically, but I'm talking in general. People think that you get calls about certain players and you never get a call. So when it comes to any potential UFA or any player that possibly has been talked to about being moved, someone wants to have him. On that point, I will say Alex DeBrincat's not being traded. no chance. So we'll just see what it goes at the end of the year. But and if we've signed a contract with him before then, we'll see what happens. But he's not getting traded.
So how would you assess his season then to this point, his first year in Ottawa, Alex's?
Really good. Really good. You know what? People forget, there's an adjustment when you go to a new team. It's very, I don't want to say it changes, but there's adjustments, and Alex has played with different centers all through this year. One thing, he works hard, he's talented, he does the right thing. We play a bit different than in Chicago. I think they're, without getting into too much details, they're a more rush team. We're doing things a bit differently, but we've been very happy about how Alex play overall, very happy with him.
Have you had any talks right now? Is there anything ongoing in terms of an extension, or is that all in a holding pattern?
I'm not allowed to make jokes, but I maybe bought a Chipotle franchise.
Well, given where things are at, just the pending sale of the franchise, Pierre, has there been any directive from the board to you in terms of like dollars in, dollars out around the deadline?
No, the board's been great. From the get-go this year, they've allowed us to improve this team. And I think once trade deadline comes, if we can improve the team, I'm pretty sure we'll get their full support. I can only say great things about, allowing me to do my job the best possible, allowing our franchise to grow. The board has been great in that way.
Are you still, if you were to add, are you still looking for that defenseman?
As are about 22 other teams, yes. Yeah. But it's, you know what? When you look at our defense, I look at it, look how great Jake Sanderson has been. Look how we played against arguably the best player in the league. I think Connor McDavid was pretty frustrated playing against him the other day. Look how Eric Branstrom stepped up over the last few games with Jake not being there. You look at, I don't want to name names because then people will go crazy, but as a whole, our defense has been pretty good. Obviously, people will say, well, you faced 48 shots in New York Islanders, but they had 6 power plays, we had 3. Sometimes that's a gauge of, a team gets a chance to have, a few more shots because they're on the power play. But overall, if we can improve at any position, we'll look at improve at any position.
Do you see a future for Travis Hamonic here beyond this season?
One thing I can tell you is Travis is a really good leader. No matter what anyone says, I will tell you he's helped Jake Sanderson's transition to the NHL, having a steady partner, having someone that talks to you, having someone that's gone to war. So do I see a future? For sure. He's probably someone that we're not going to move at the trade deadline. And we want him here, and we'll see at the end of the season where this path takes us.
Have you had conversations with pending UFA, so the Austin Watsons and the Nick Holdens, and had any sort of conversation to say, what, if there's an opportunity, we might move you, or how does that play out?
We have internal discussions. I'll keep those for myself. One thing is I always try to tell, if it's players, sometimes players directly or agents, the path that we're looking for certain players. But things can change. We lose the next 3, things can change. We win the next 3, things can change. The one thing that I've been impressed with is how our players have played hard. And the other thing that I've been impressed with is our crowds this year. The fans have been really behind us. We've had a few stinkers in front of the fans, but overall, the fans are really behind this team, and the players feel it. The players talk about it. I've heard them talk about it when they know it's going to be a sellout, how excited they are to play in front of these fans, and they've really been good towards us, towards the organization.
You mentioned the next 6-7 games, trying to gauge where things are at. So, are you still at this point still have some questions about what this team is, or what do you think you'll be looking for over the next little bit to determine the course of action?
I wish we could have gone this year 20 to 25 games somewhat healthy, because I think that would give you the best indication of where we are as an organization. There are teams that are on the build that barely had any injuries. I wish that could have happened to us. I have a good idea that this is a team moving forward that will be in the playoffs and contend for the playoffs, as long as everything stays status quo. I know the nucleus of this team is one of the best in the NHL. Most of the guys are all signed long-term. So And I think our fans know that. That's why they're behind us. But I wish, my only wish this year is give us 20, 25 games where we're almost healthy. A few nicks and bruises. And I think as much as our fans have been behind us, they'd be even more behind us.
C'est pas mal certain que Derick Brassard va jouer son millième match de 7 ans.
Derick Brassard va jouer son millième match avec les Senators. Derick Brassard will play his 1,000th game with the Senators. That unless there's a trade that shocks us, I would put it at 99.9%. And we have a plan in place. DJ and I have talked about it. We'll, as we get closer, I think we'll let you know this is the path, but not right now.
You've
Go ahead.
talked about your budget a little bit, but the pending ownership, sale, or transition, does that impact what you're doing at all? Any decision making that you do?
No, I've communicated regularly with the board about this year. As far as moving forward, I've always told them we're going to do what's best for the organization, best for the team. And at that point in time, when new owners come in, whenever that might be, I'll sit down with them and give them what the plan is and move forward. But just go about your business and do what's best for the team and the organization.
This is our first chance to chat with you since you made a change at the AHL coaching level. I'm just wondering, just from your vantage point, what transpired there to lead to a change?
No, obviously on this one, I think Ryan Bonus spoke very well about it. Him and I made that decision, and it was for the betterment of the organization, and we move on. And I don't know if I can add anything more to it.
Was there anything about the trust issues that have been mentioned, the rumors that?
I don't talk about rumors, Mark. I talk about facts, and I think Ryan really alluded well to it, that for us, we needed to make this decision, and we made it, both Ryan and I. He had experience, seeing what Wilkes-Barre and Pittsburgh did, and we made the decision for the best of the organization.
Given the way Tim Stützle has progressed this year, how much are you looking back at that deal in September and thinking, thank goodness I signed him then, because it feels like the price might have gone up here?
Tim Stützle is a treat to watch every night. We have a budding superstar. Whether he's going to be a top 5 player in the league, top 10 player in the league, he brings me out of my seat. And I watch hockey all the time. I'm excited to see Tim Stützle every night. So, you know what? We're happy that he wanted to make the long-term commitment. He's a good person. He's an unbelievable hockey player. And our fans are going to get to see him this year plus another 8 years. And hopefully after that, if I'm here, I can sign him to another contract, and whomever else can sign him to another contract. But Timmy's great. He brings a smile to my face every time I see him. He loves hockey. He loves being here. Sleeps a lot. But, he's... You know what? It's great to come to the rink and be part of the same organization as Tim Stützle and a lot of players.
Should I ask you, has Norris had his surgery, and
yes.
what's the
I'll
timeline for that?
I'll talk about all the injuries, so that way I update you. So on Josh Norris had his surgery on the I don't want to be off. It was a few weeks ago. I'm off, but successful surgery. And he will be back here, I think, in the next few days. Cam Talbot, as I said previously, will join us for practice either tomorrow or Saturday. Had a really good day today. Best day, so that means he's trending in the right direction. Nick Holden has an upper body injury, not long term, but we did put him on IR. Jake Sanderson, we're targeting... Probably not the back-to-back against St. Louis, but we're targeting probably closer to a 2-week thing. So around Carolina, Montreal. If not, he'll go to Detroit. Forsberg's done for the year. Am I forgetting anyone? But Forsberg is walking now. Doesn't have 2 legs. Poor guy. It's an unfortunate injury, and he's a battler. He'll be back to 100% for next year. And on Josh, the timeline is training camp next season.
Okay, but he will be ready for that.
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about that. And that's why we did what we did. We talked to multiple doctors, and they were pretty much all on the course, try to rehab and get strength. And when we talked he could do surgery at that point in time, the timeline was going to be about the same, unless we were probably in the second round of the playoffs. If we did it a few weeks after, it would have been about the same. So,
One last one
Oh,
for me.
yeah.
You, I think the last time you were on with the guys from 1200, you said the plan was you'd like to get Sokolov some games and maybe like is that still the plan that you'd like to get?
Let's just see where we are. I did say we're going to keep Ridley Gregg for 50 games, and the next Sunday morning I was having my coffee and I'm watching Ridley, and we'd had a really bad game against Winnipeg, and I said to myself, I'm watching the game on my iPad from the next morning. I said, why aren't we calling this guy up? So I talked to DJ, and for the most part, I'm not trying to dwell into too much. The first 3 years of DJ, the importance was on development. You know, developing some of our younger players. Winning's always important. Yeah. This year with DJ, it's always been like do what you can, dress the best lineup. You know, not develop it is still important because they're still young kids. You know, so. I knew Jake would have his minutes. I wasn't worried about that. On this one, I did call DJ, and I said, DJ, we're going to call him up. Okay, can you please promise me he's going to have a chance to touch the puck? So that's why he's on the power play, which he deserves. He's on the power play. He's playing, except for the last game, he's always played above 13 minutes, I believe. And last game, it was a back-to-back. We went against a man's team in Calgary, and the Islanders are fairly physical, so there's a bit of wear and tear. So Ridley... I'm sorry I contradicted myself, but I'm allowed to change my mind. And I changed my mind that morning watching on my iPad, having a good coffee. And with Sokolov and some of these other players, whether it's Sokolov, whether it's Cruikshank, possibly Reinhart, maybe the Sword. The Sword's having a great year, Sabourin. You look at the back end. At some point in time, we've given games to Bernard Docker. We've given games to Lassie. Gannett's having a great year, so maybe he'll get some games. But it all depends where we are. In the previous years, we weren't in the playoff race. And, the NHL games get amped up as you're moving along. The games at this point stage are different than the games the first 2 weeks of the season, the first month of the season. So we have to be careful because we're still developing some of these players. So if we bring them up, but no, the plan is to some of these players, depending where we are, that they will get games and they will get games and be slotted in positions. If they play well, they'll get a chance maybe to get on the power play. Again, I leave that up to DJ. DJ does a good job that of developing and making sure, look at all our young players, how they've all grown. So, yes. And then, sorry for the long-winded answer, but I was just trying to give a bit of context there.